This story began in the Jazz Age. The appearance of just one such beauty caught gazes of everyone who looked in its direction and immediately lighted up their eyes with admiration and awe. It caused feelings of envy, jealousy, craving, desire to acquire it instantly. Yes, indeed, there was a time when it was taken to parties and displayed to guests. There were many names for these exquisite beauties in different countries: poupée du salon, sofa poupée, art deco doll, poufiasse. 100 years have passed since then, and now they do not attend parties. Nobody shows them off at every turn. They are carefully kept in the interiors of people's bedrooms and living rooms, in museums and salons. Boudoir dolls are one of the most expensive collectibles.
Since all these dolls are one of a kind, there will not be two dolls alike. That's why collectors chase after such dolls, so that only they have this or that particular doll in their possession.
Tatiana hadn't slept in over 2 weeks. And finally, she was able to catch her breath. Now the dolls were back home after delighting guests and residents of the capital at an exclusive exhibition. The spotlight fascinated looks, fashion shows. Well, how else could it be? Such dolls simply have no right to gather dust. Their mission is to serve as graceful guides to the world of global art.
Her dolls are salon dolls. These are the kind of dolls that should be displayed in salons. They should be surrounded by lavish, rich interiors. Her dolls are truly works of art, and they adorn my salon.
The demand for unique dolls is quite high, and it is very difficult for a new collector to understand what is worth buying and what is not. In this industry, there are special criteria and rules which experts follow to determine the value of original dolls. First and foremost, these dolls should be created by renowned craftspeople in a single copy. For such a work of art, collectors are ready to offer up to several tens of thousands of dollars. And purchasing the most rare and valuable items is altogether impossible. They become the property of museums or remain in the collection of the doll makers.
It all depends on the charisma of the person. That is something very important to me. I'm such kind of a person who needs to feel good vibes coming from a customer. Then I can open up and tell a story if I feel like it. Sometimes I decide not to sell the doll, and I put such a high price that the person refuses to buy it altogether.
This is the bird trainer, the most expensive doll in the world. It was created by Christian Bailey. He assembled the bird trainer using 2,340 polished steel parts, which eventually formed a 120 centimeters tall doll that weighs 55 kilograms. The Swiss artist spent 15,000 hours to create the masterpiece. The bird trainer is dressed in luxurious Renaissance attire made of silk, satin and velvet. This expensive doll skillfully plays the flute, and the birds sitting on his hand begin to turn their heads to the beautiful sound. This art object is estimated at $6 million. Puppets have accompanied humans since the dawn of times. They were not always made for children's amusement, though. They were also used in rituals and magic.
Kazakhstan.
Doll collecting is not widespread in Kazakhstan, and there can be a logical explanation behind that. In Islam religion, one is not supposed to depict a face. And if a doll has no face, it is no longer a doll. So collecting is not that popular here, while in the West, it's well developed.
Our ancestors believed that a doll had a soul, but today we clearly understand that a doll is not born, it is created by a person, and it comes to life through the imagination of its creator. This object of art is a part of the culture of all mankind because the doll preserves in its image the identity and characteristic features of the people who created it. The ancient dolls found throughout different periods of time are certainly far from technical perfection. Nevertheless, the prices for such items go as high as several $1,000s, as the newer and exceptionally well-preserved dolls are considered to be even more expensive.
Куклы – это признак достатка. Это же не та вещь, которую…
Dolls are a sign of wealth. It's not an essential thing that you need straight away. It's like with paintings. People don't actually admire them, it's rather like a disease. You simply want to possess a painting of a certain author or a certain century, and hardly ever the collector can explain why they want it. The science of collecting is not a simple one.
Коллекционирование, она такая непростая наука.
There are about 10 collectors of boudoir dolls and about the same number of doll makers in Kazakhstan.
There are so many wonderful male masters. Their dolls are so… To me, it seems that even I or other female masters with substantial experience would not be able to make such dolls as men do. Their dolls are just marvelous. And men collect them, buy them for their wives. For example, I would receive calls from men who wish to purchase a doll for their wives, and they ask for a doll to be made in resemblance with their wife, that is, a portrait doll.
Each artist uses his own unique technique, but the basic skills of doll makers are the same. They ought to understand the structure and chemical properties of materials, have some knowledge of anatomy, and a good sense of fabric texture.
Here we have clay and textile. Surely you can come up with something interesting using leather, but one still wants such a doll to look rich in the interior. If a person buys it, it's done for the beauty purposes. That's why you try to make lush dresses. People like lavish dresses. I want all the costumes. These and these as well, and this color scheme and that. There are plenty of things I haven't done yet.
The variety of modern materials, models, artists, and entire manufacturing companies makes it possible for collectors and dealers to find a niche for any kind of budget. Items made by internationally recognized doll makers are valued higher.
I really wanted the last one. I imagined her with butterflies. I don't know how I got her to look like such a lady. I literally finished it in 2 weeks. Sometimes it takes a month, even a month and a half, and at other times you just sit down, mold it, and you get an image.
The price especially increases if these artists are repeatedly recognized and awarded. By the way, Cleopatra is considered to be the very first doll collector. The ancient Egyptian queen used her numerous dolls as mannequins. While dressing her dolls, she picked outfits for herself. By the way, the French women also followed her example. They sent dolls to their female friends to share the latest fashion trends and introduce them to subtleties of the 17th century fashion. Soon, these dolls started to be called Pandoras.
In the past, outfits were created even for dolls. A lady would go out in the evening and the doll would be dressed just like her. Whether it was fashionable or not, the doll had to look like the owner. So the same outfits were made specifically for the dolls too, and both would show off in public.
And this one is a very old American leather doll. The design and execution are fairly straightforward, but no one can duplicate this century-old masterpiece. And that is because it was patented by Gussie Decker in 1902. In his patent application, he indicated that the purpose of the invention was to create a cheap durable and attractive doll, which was also safe for small children. Today, every collectible doll has a passport. One copy is given to the person who purchases the doll, and the second copy stays with the doll maker. As a rule, the authors track their dolls and know exactly where their creations are and who the owner is.
Collectors are different. Some just love collecting, some buy all the dolls made by just one particular master. Some simply love dolls and want to fill the entire house with them.
Angelina and Melania, these two opposites in one harmonious collection by Tatiana Privalova, immediately catch the eye. There is something identical in them, and yet with sharp differences in colors, shapes and moods. Perhaps they are united by one story, but Tatiana will never share it with anyone. The artist believes that introduction to dolls should begin from the first impression.
By looking at the doll, you can see whether it was made with love, whether it is kind. A person approaching the doll feels this energy. You can hug it. You can share your stories with it.
Someday, Tatiana dreams of creating a collection where dolls come in pairs. This idea was inspired by these two sisters. According to the artist, two dolls can create a dialogue and a more powerful story can emerge. It's quite unexpected to see this particular character in Tatiana's collection. She created it in a very short time, and for her it became the embodiment of a movie scene.
Фильм «Казахское ханство». Мне актер понравился, то есть я весь фильм.
I watched the movie and really loved the actor. I was so excited. I'd never made a male doll before. After I finished watching the movie, I sat down and created this doll in 40 minutes. Never have I ever made a doll in such a short amount of time. And because of that doll, I was recognized by my family.
И как раз с ним я, наверное, это признание от моих родных получила, наконец-то.
Many dolls appear to her in dreams. Then the doll maker jumps out of bed and immediately begins to create magic. Image, texture, outfit, hairstyle, accessories. Everything changes on the fly. Sometimes it's put in cold storage, and sometimes it's finished in a flash.
Sometimes you have to redesign it. I want to make her like this, while she doesn't agree. Sometimes I make changes several times. We can't come to an agreement.
The pleasure of collecting is not measured in monetary units, but rather in a combination of different factors. Perhaps no one can ever say exactly why and what started any given collection. Any collection is a story, a personal one.
Many people ask, does your doll have a story? Yes, it does, but it's my story. And every person who approaches a doll and looks at it has their own story in their mind. There's no need to impose my story on this person.
The history of boudoir dolls is quite rich and eventful. There was a time when it adorned the interiors of bedrooms and living rooms of not only actresses, but also many ladies dreaming of a life full of breathtaking adventures. And as experts point out, the craze for fashion dolls is coming back because unique original works arise, which means that connoisseurs of new collections emerge as well.